Alex Collmer, founder and CEO of VidMob. Nice to see you here in Cannes. Are you a regular? Do you come here often?
Well, I come here about once a year. I wish I came here more often, but I think this is my eighth can consecutively, maybe barring a COVID interruption.
Yes. I want to start by asking you about, you recently launched the Aperture. Can you talk to us a bit about that and how that's redefining creative measurement in the ad tech space?
Sure. No, it's actually a pretty significant step forward for us. So we've been working on developing the Aperture for about 3 years now. And essentially what it is a way to take the sort of small elemental tags that you get from computer vision and other sort of AI systems and give them context and meaning. And ultimately this is all in service of our goal of essentially getting to a point where we can decode creativity in all of its facets and help people understand why certain things work or don't work.
Well, I'm really glad you said decode creativity. There might be some people here, the creatives in the industry, who say, well, you can't decode creativity, that's a human element.
And I would probably agree, but you can certainly decode aspects of it. And so what we would say is that nothing we're doing is in any way attempting to remove the essential nature of the human in the creative process. But what we find is that there are tactical things that you do within an ads presentation that can have very significant impact on performance, whether it's brand performance, sales performance, or media performance. And those are the things we're trying to get to.
And do I guess your immediate clients or end users, do they understand there's a lot of complicated data in that mix that has to be processed and assessed. How do you then convey to them what's working and what's not working with that?
I think they understand at a high level, and then it's our job to help them understand it at a more detailed level. But what we do is try to help them understand what are their own personalized creative drivers of success. Because every brand is going to be different. This isn't. We sort of don't believe in a reality of like a one best practice to rule them all.
Yeah.
And so we get into the data, then show them how certain things develop patterns and lead to results, and then ultimately are able to kind of predict future success and match and sort of analyze that to make sure that it is in fact driving the results that we expect.
So talking about I'm a user of the internet, like you are, like everyone in the world is. When I am reading a story on a news site or something, sometimes I'm fed ads that are perhaps not really relevant to me, or perhaps I think they're not really relevant in that moment. How do you guys tackle that?
Yeah, and I mean, so I think the way I would think about it is that there's all sorts of data that's driving the type of content we see on the web, right? So if you go up and down the croissant, almost everyone here is in some way involved in sort of media optimization.
Yeah.
So using data to find better and better audiences to show content to.
Right.
There's very little data on the creative side, which frankly doesn't make a great deal of sense, because at the same time everyone would agree that creative is somewhere between 50 and 70% of results.
Right.
So what we're trying to do is, you have that existing practice of doing contextual targeting, understanding the type of content you're reading, type of video content you're watching, and then pair that with a similar level of understanding of the actual creative itself, so you can map the two together to help it be more relevant for someone like you in that moment.
Well, let's turn it around to Cannes, because you're here. It's the big creative festival week. It's only Monday, of course, but what sort of conversations are you looking to have with people, and what sort of things are you hoping to take away from this week?
Well, in a lot of ways, we're trying to build on the Creative Data Summit that we had in New York a few weeks ago. So what we're seeing is a broad realization that the industry needs to move beyond sort of a sole focus on an identity core to a world now where we have identity core plus a creative data core. So essentially it's sort of the who do I talk to plus how do I talk to them. And right. So we had a summit of marketers, brands, agencies, platforms in New York 2.5 weeks ago to sort of start to get to understanding how are all these different constituencies using creative data to drive planning, production, media decisioning, measurement. And now this essentially is about carrying that forward and continuing to build off that momentum.
AI, of course, is one of the huge themes. Was last year, is again this year. What is VidMob? What's your kind of feeling about how AI is being used, how it's being developed, and what sort of rules and regulations are in place to safeguard it so it's not being used irresponsibly?
Yeah, I mean, I think AI, whether we like it or not, is going to be a central theme, not just this year, but next year, the year after. I mean, this is very real. This is not Web 3, or something that we talk about for a year or two and then happily forget about. Listen, I think what we think about is, at the end of the day, the goal of marketers is not just to make stuff. The goal of marketing is to somehow outcompete your competitors and to drive share for your business. And so if everyone is using the same tools, then it's not logically possible for them to be advantageous. And that I think is a central piece for us. It's like, no matter how amazing these AI tools get, if everyone's using the same tools, they can't be driving that advantage that they're seeking. We believe that this creative data, the recipe for how to communicate effectively and how to drive results, whether it's by platform or format or objective, that's where advantage lies. And so all the conversations that we're having around AI are really less about the actual tool and more about what are you putting into the tool to get some sort of differentiated output.
So, I mean, you said you spent about a couple of years, 3 years developing the Aperture. With the way things are developing with technology, especially in the ad tech space and with AI in the foreground now, how often do you think your company, as a leader in its field, is going to be forced to shift and change direction, and how able are you to do that?
It's such a great question. Honestly, I think we are in a world where things are going to move so fast, like almost, definitely uncomfortably fast for anyone that touches technology. And it really, in a lot of ways, feels like sort of creativity and marketing are almost like ground zero for AI. So we operate under the frame that we need to be prepared to be an entirely different business and technology and application almost every few months. And so a lot of the way we structure our, like our org structure and processes is about how do we build essentially like a liquid org that can be more agile and more responsive than hopefully anyone else.
Just finally, as a business leader, macro politics and macroeconomics must always feature in what you're doing. A lot's been happening in the United States this year. We've had the massive tariff changes. How do things like that impact on a company like VidMob?
They make things challenging, right? And I think regardless of what your political views are, uncertainty is never a good thing. Upsetting friends and allies is also not a good thing. So there's a lot going on that I think makes doing business harder today than it would have been, sort of 6-9 months ago. My hope is that the tariffs find some sort of stable, more sensible place relatively soon. I don't know how realistic that is. But we see a lot of uncertainty, and people are struggling to be able to make decisions because they don't really know what the world's going to look like a week or 2 weeks later, and that's not helpful.
And just very finally, what can you tell us about what's coming from VidMob next that perhaps no one knows about?
So there's
Unfair
a
question.
well, there's a lot of things. I mean, some of the things that I'm most excited about are how do we take predictive scores, so scores that predict sales, brand or media behaviors, and deploy those into media decisioning, deploy those into measurement frameworks so they can become more accurate. That's one frame. Another is we're doing a lot of work to enhance Gen AI outputs. So you take a human prompt and then pair that with sort of first-party creative data to lead to a better, more customized, more performant result. That's another big segment. And then the third one is we're developing a way for our clients to essentially converse with different data sets, making it far easier to get to creative insights, which they can then activate. So I would say those are three pretty big themes where we're spending a lot of time recently.